The As Is podcast does not necessarily hold the views or opinions of our guests. The guests have a right to express their own thoughts, and those thoughts are protected with their freedom of speech. What they say is what they say, and we allow them the right to speak on their own behalf. The As Is podcast is not responsible nor liable for the opinions and stories of others. Welcome to another edition of the As Is podcast. Today's special guest is American actor, director, and producer Dannon Green. Dannon, you there?
I sure am, brother. What's going on? Don't forget comedian. That's what people know me as. Don't forget that.
All right, well, since you put that in there real quick, let's start off with telling us a joke. How about that?
Oh, hey, man. I'm not happy to be here. How about that?
That's not a good joke. That's sad, man.
Because I ain't lying. I'm happy to be here.
Okay. All right. Hey, man, listen. You have an incredible record of things that you've done. I can read it, or would you prefer for you to give us some of your accolades?
Well, we could talk about it. I got my first big television break on the Apollo Comedy Hour. And then I was on Comic View for a while. I did Comic View about 4 or 5 times. I also had a special on Comic View, did a number of films. Even though I wasn't in it, I was one of the people instrumental with the documentary series that's out now, Fat Tuesday documentary.
Okay.
Yeah, from back in the day. I just had I just had my own documentary out on Tubi for about almost 8 months.
Wow.
And we just took it down. It was called The Executioners. It was a boxing documentary about a boxing team out of Philadelphia. Okay. And I took it down because we just got an interview we wasn't expecting to get with Bernard Hopkins. So we're going to redo the documentary and then put it back out there.
Wow.
So I've done a number of things, man. So it's a lot. Writing, I've done so many commercials. I've done over 20-something commercials in my career, So, yeah, I've done a lot.
Yeah, it says that you were also in Baby Boy, and you've also been on Moesha.
Yes, I was on Moesha. Baby Boy, the thing about Baby Boy, which is funny, is when they were shooting Baby Boy, the year it came out, I was in the first actors workshop that Bill Duke had back in 1996. And in that class, 96, 97, in that class, they had Anthony Anderson, Chris Spencer, Taraji Henson, Lisa Ray, Shamara Moore. I mean, we all was in the same acting class.
Wow.
And so when John did Baby Boy, God rest his soul, he had gotten a couple of people from there, like Monica Calhoun was in there. Okay. Obviously, Taraji was picked,
Definitely.
So there was this scene they wanted to do where they had a guy who was supposed to be on a TV show, and he had 2 lovers. And those lovers were Hope Flood and Kim Whitley.
Okay.
And they had me be the guy. So we shot the scene at the Comedy Act Theater as like if we were going back and forth and banters and all that type of stuff.
Right.
And that scene was supposed to be, you remember when Tyrese was watching TV in the bedroom? That scene?
Yeah.
I think it's the one before he came up and grabbed around. I think it was that one, whichever one. But when Tyrese was looking at TV, we were supposed to be the show that he was watching on television.
Oh, okay.
But something happened and they did not edit it there. So what John did was he put us in the outtakes of the DVD.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how I always kept main credit, got paid main money. You know what I mean? Because it stayed as a principal, but only on the DVD at that time. But yeah, I did Baby Boy. Yep, I was in that. Yep.
That's what's up. Hey man, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on right now. So I want to get into actually color.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to get into it is because in current events of today, they're having this big thing with Spotify, and I'm on the Spotify platform.
Right.
And in addition, I'm on a lot of other platforms, but whatever the case may be, Joe Rogan, how do you
Right.
feel about the use of the word nigger coming from a white man? And how do you feel about India Arie's statement towards pulling her music off of Spotify?
I Well, first of all, I'm not into culture because as a comic, I believe everybody should have free speech.
Okay.
You know, I don't believe that anything should be speech of hate or nothing like that. I mean, nobody does. I don't. I mean, it goes without saying. You
Okay.
know what I mean? But when you're a comedian, you know, and I mean, and that goes across the board, you're going to say things that are going to rub people wrong. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Now, in terms of the N word, we use the N word because we were able to switch something. People don't like it,
Hold
but
on for a
switch something
second.
that was a negative.
Hold on for a second. You ain't being real now. What is the N word?
Well, nigga.
All right then. Like, what you
Okay,
scared
okay,
of?
okay. I mean, you know, okay, no, okay. Well, I forgot. You know, I mean, I didn't know what I could say, what I couldn't say on your platform.
You
You know
can
what I
say
mean?
whatever you want to say. This is as
Okay,
is. Ain't that, I don't care about
right,
something else. Okay, go ahead.
right. So using the word nigger by black comics or people in general, our history has been able to take something, even though it was negative, and switch it. You know what I mean? And use it as a street term.
Right.
But we never, as we all know, the ER and the GA. Okay.
Exactly. Why don't you break that down?
Now,
So wait, break that down so people can understand the difference.
okay. Well, obviously, no, not obviously, because some people may not know.
Right. So
When you
break it
say
down.
nigger, you know, it feels like it's the hard ER. Brothers and sisters, we don't say that.
Right.
Most black people don't say nigger. We say nigga, what's up?
Right.
So it's the GA.
Right.
And no matter what people want to say, black or white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, there's a difference in the two.
Right.
You know, people say, well, there's no difference. There's a difference in the two.
Okay.
When black people say nigga and we mad, we still say GA because we're just using it to replace whoever you are. You know, instead of saying Ronald, fuck you, we say nigga, fuck you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But we know that the history of the word coming from white people and other people that are our nationality has been used to degrade us.
Right.
People don't want to admit it, but it just is what it is.
Right.
So when I hear someone like Joe Rogan, and I think his was it ER or GA?
I think it was an ER.
Okay. The difference is I don't know his history with black people.
Right.
See, if I got a Mexican boy that's cool with me.
Okay.
And he cool with us. And I heard him say nigga with us. But he won't say it around everybody. He'll say it around us because he knows. Well, we know. But we also know if you say it around the wrong person, we can't protect you.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, in terms of Joe Rogan, I don't know his history with black people.
Okay.
So, and people can say what they want, but it's true. If a white boy or Hispanic or Asian, somebody has a history with you, you know, I got a white boy that grew up in our neighborhood.
Right.
Like when he was like Darren, he was like 5 or 7 or 8 when he grew up. He grew up around us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And if I were to hear him say it, I wouldn't even look at him differently because it's like, nigga, he grew up. You know what I mean? He went to school with us all the way up to he left. Now, the difference is the white person's mentality or the person's mentality. If they respect you and they know what it means to you, they wouldn't put themselves in that position to have to be judged.
Right.
See what I'm saying? That's the difference. So now the thing is, everybody's judging Joe Rogan. People haven't had a problem with him before, but then I don't know what his background is with black people. I know he's cool with Dave Chappelle, but all the white comics, believe it or not, were cool with Dave Chappelle because Dave came up in the white clubs.
Right.
So that's the whole, you know, now in terms of someone taking their music off, I don't think you should. I don't think it's, you know, here's the deal. You ask for Spotify, if you feel that bad about it, just go ahead and say, man, y'all should take them off. Let them decide. But when we get to all this protesting and stuff like that, what black people fail to realize is at the end, it winds up coming fucking us up more than them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because now they're like, okay, well, we don't want to hear no more. We don't want to hear no comedy. We want you to go clean. We want you to no more your rap. You know, and people are not going to deal with that. But here's the other part. every nationality has a derogatory term that they use for each other that they can use that we shouldn't use.
Right.
Jewish people have derogatory terms that they call each other, but they don't want to hear it from us.
Right.
We got derogatory terms that we call each other, but we don't want to hear from anyone else.
Right.
So in terms of Joe Rogan, and I haven't heard the whole thing. I know that there was something about they asked him, did you want to edit it out? And he said, no, whatever. I still don't believe in the cancel culture.
Right.
That's just what I mean. But I do think that someone needs to step to him and find out where you at. It's like, you know what? It's an old story that Red Fox told years ago.
Okay. Tell it.
What happened was he was doing Las Vegas.
Okay.
He was doing Las Vegas. And Elvis Presley was doing Las Vegas with him. So he wanted to see where Elvis Presley, what was his whole, makeup. Because, Elvis was a racist at one time.
Right.
And Elvis came clean and said, look, I was that way, but that's the way I was raised. I didn't know any better. You know what I mean?
Right.
And if you looked at Elvis in his last years, he had black singers, he had black musicians, you know what I mean? His whole thing, his demeanor had changed. So I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm saying everybody has an opportunity to be checked.
Right.
And find out where that person's coming from. So someone big, either Indy Irene, if she feels that true about it, go on this podcast. Joe, I want to just find out where you're coming from. What is your relationship with black people? Maybe look to see.
She took her music down. She took her music. She wanted Spotify to take it down.
Yeah. So, but again, Joe Rogan's also worth about $200-something million.
Of which 120 he got from a contract for Spotify.
Right. So is Spotify going to stop? Because, some singers or people want to go ahead and protest the fact that he said the N-word? Or do they want to suspend him? That's what I would do. Oh, you know what, man? We're going to suspend you for 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Right. Like they did to Whoopi. They just did that to Whoopi. They just did that to Whoopi Goldberg from The View because she said some insensitive comments, according to American Society, about Jewish people.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about that, I went live with that too. Whether Whoopi was right or wrong, I mean, I understand. I don't see. Here's the thing. Here's a comedy 101 and life 101. Comedy 101. If you don't know anything about the subject, don't bring it up the stage. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Life 101. If you don't know anything about the subject or the history of it, don't bring it up on stage. Especially if you don't explain it right. What Whoopi said was she didn't praise Hitler or the whole. She didn't praise what was going on. She was just saying that she said, as a black person, when we look at race, we look at color.
Right.
And that was her mistake. So when she took race out of it and just put it as color, the Jewish community felt, oh, wait a minute, Hitler wanted to make a superior race.
Right.
See what I'm saying? So he didn't think that the Jewish people were, and that's when all of that happened. So I understand where they're coming from, and I definitely understand where Whoopi comes from, because as a black person, if you talk to most black people in the world, when we say race, when we put people side by side, you're not going to know, you know what I'm saying? If they are Jewish or if they're English, you're saying, because we're looking at color.
Right.
So I'm not saying Whoopi was right by what she said. Obviously, she offended some people. People were hurt. And if they aren't, then you find out. But the only problem I have with them suspending Whoopi is Whoopi has been an ally to the Jewish community.
Right.
She is not one of hate.
Right.
And once she apologized, and look, this is what I said. And when she went to Goldberg, she said the same thing because she wanted people to know I wasn't preaching hate. I just looked at color. Go ahead.
Let me interject and give you my interpretation for Whoopi. I kind of agree with her when she says color, and the reason when she says it's not color, excuse me, and the reason why I think that way is this. Hitler was in a time and a place where he wanted to be superior to everyone and everybody. So I think I don't necessarily think that Hitler, and this is going to sound crazy, I don't think Hitler woke up one day and says, I want to kill Jews. I think Hitler woke up one day and wanted to be a superior. He had a superiority complex. He wanted to be superior. So I believe with a person like Hitler, anyone who would have been around him is who he would have attacked. Now, let me give you an example of why I say that. If you have, I'm going to use my hometown. I'm from Harlem, okay?
Right.
In Harlem, right? If we take what they said about Whoopi and apply it to us, let's see what we get. In Harlem, the city of New York State, and the powers that be decided to gentrify Harlem. So what they did was they took all of the low income people out of Harlem, pushed them away, tore down the buildings, and made them into beautiful places, better brownstones, better shopping areas. Now, what happens when that happens, when gentrification happens in any city, the black people are usually removed, and who moves in? White people. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So if white people are moved in, they do not pass up the opportunity to now move into something fully redeveloped, regardless if it was black people there, regardless if it was Spanish people, if it was Haitian people, if it was Chinese people. All they know is it's a beautiful area and they want to move in. So now, if we were to say that Whoopi is racist and she went against the Jews because she said color, can I not say New York is racist because they went against the blacks, moved us out, and moved all the white folks in? Because it's the same thing. Or can I just say it was more of a... Wait, hold on, let me finish. Can I say it's more of an economic and a superiority thing? Because when you have those type of situations, the people that are being moved out or the people that have been done wrong, sometimes it's not just about the color, it's about the person who's actually committing the offense. And they don't care what color you are. They want to be a dominating force or they want to make money. So it wouldn't have mattered if in Harlem there was Jews that lived there, because there are parts in Brooklyn right now in New York with there's projects with nothing but Jews in them. No black people. And if you walk in the projects and you do something, the police are coming and they are going to whip your butt. And it's all Jews in these projects as soon as you get across the Brooklyn Bridge. So now the point that I'm trying to make is when she says, you know, maybe it wasn't about color, I don't think that's offensive, because if you look at it and you look at the current events of what's really going on today, is it about color when they gentrify a neighborhood? Or is it about economics? No, I want you to answer that question in your opinion. What is it?
Oh, yeah, no, I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
What you're saying, when you look at it with the eye test, you're correct.
Okay.
But the problem is, and I'm not, like I said, I'm speaking now as I'm going to look at somebody looking at the whole situation. I'm not going to, if I was coming neutral, let me put it that way.
Right.
What happened was the Holocaust was about, if you look at it, it was the cleansing of a human race.
Right.
So the word race, even Whoopi said it, because she left it out, it offended people as if they're saying, oh, it was just a color thing.
Right.
So I see that point. And again, not being Jewish and not understanding the religion of it, because that's what Judaism is, is a religion. I can't say, well, you know, Whoopi didn't mean nothing. Well, I know she didn't mean nothing, but she didn't say it right. We'll say something. See, here's the problem with America. We'll say something, and people know the intent isn't meant to be hateful, but there's going to be enough complaints on it where people are going to go, we got to make a move.
Yeah, but I think that I have a problem with that, because she has a right to say whatever she wants to say, and she doesn't have to clarify, because if you're an open-minded person and you see things from all angles, I'm looking at it from all angles, and I understand her position. It doesn't necessarily.
You said something, the operative word you said, not to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
You said something that was really true, but which is the problem in America. You said an open-minded person.
Right.
That phrase.
Right.
Most people are not. They're going to jump on. It's just like social media, my man. Some people will read the headlines and make a big
Very
post
true.
on the headline without reading
Very true.
the entire thing.
Very true. Very true.
So the point I'm saying is, it's like I said, I hate the word hate
Right.
because if you tell me you wear Adidas and I like Nike,
Right.
am I going to say, well, you're hateful against Nike?
Right.
You have a different opinion and a different taste.
Exactly.
And people should stop, people. And the problem is we're using too much of, well, there's too many people being attacked or this or that. Everybody gets attacked every day, no matter what
But you
race
know
you are,
what?
what gender.
You know what? I'm gonna take it a little deeper, and I want you to think about what I'm saying. A lot of times, those
Okay.
attacks are premeditated attacks that have been internalized and they've been subdued in a person's mind. And what I mean by that is the reason why they're coming at Whoopi anyway, as far as I'm concerned, is because they always wanted to come at it. They just never had the reason. She's a black woman on the #1 talk show in America and has been there. She's a staple of it and has been there for a while. America is used to building someone up to break them down. There are black opportunities and we take the opportunities, but there are also people who do not want us to have those opportunities, and they will tolerate you until they have a reason to attack.
Well, I'm in the game. I mean, I'm out here in the middle of it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And not that you're not, because you are too, but I'm saying living out in Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And like you said, you lived in New York, so you definitely understand.
Right.
The thing about anything in life is there's always going to be someone after you.
Exactly.
The problem I have with the situation is that they're not looking, or people are not looking at who this person was to their community.
Right.
She even changed her last name. Her last name wasn't Goldberg.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that lets me know that she has gotten her. She's probably been more of an ally to their community than to our community.
But at the end of the day, that you're right about that. But at the end of the day, because she's an ally and we see it, doesn't necessarily mean that they want her to be.
Well, at the end of the day, we always find out. At the end, yes, at the end of the day. But that's the point I'm making. At the end of the day, all of that goes out the window.
Right.
And see, with me.
So who's and I have to cut you off. So who's really wrong? Those that are protesting against her or her? Because I see fault on both sides, because you don't really know either.
Here's the thing. It's fault on both sides.
Exactly.
It's fault because Whoopi did not communicate what she was saying to the point. And you got to remember, she's on a show that asks for your opinion at a split second.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you say what you feel. And a lot of times, if you stop and say, let me think about it, then what you're doing is you're not being realistic. You're now saying, let me take a second to think. I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
Where you really just saying, look, this is what I feel. And if you listen, she wasn't preaching hate. She just did not explain the situation.
But I don't think she had to. What you're saying is basically she should have dumbed it down. And that's the problem I have with people. We don't have to dumb it down.
No, I'm not saying she should have dumbed it down. What I would have said, honestly, thinking about it, I probably would have said on certain situations, you know what, I don't have a comment on this.
Right. But when you do that, silence is consent.
No. When you say, listen to what I'm saying, bro. When you say sometimes, I don't have a comment, the next thing is going to be, okay, or why don't you? And then you're going to say, well, this is the reason, because I feel this way, but I'm not sure. See what I'm saying? Now you get your point across after they double down on them wanting to know.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Because now they're saying, well, what do you mean? I said, well, this is what I'm feeling, but this may not be the right way. You know, you come, it's like coming in the back door.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and then on the other side, the reason that I feel the wrong part is because are we at a point in our lives, in our country and in this world where you can't apologize?
Right.
And that's what I'm saying, bro. That's why, I'm not talking about somebody that came out. I'm not talking about somebody that came out and killed 20 people and said, I'm sorry. Nah, dog, you're doing the time.
But those rules only apply to black people, because black people are the only ones that cannot apologize, it seems to me. Anybody else can apologize or they get a slap on the wrist and they're forgiven. We are the most unforgiven people that there are. And at the end of the
Well, we're the
day,
most unforgiving people, and we're the most forgiving people.
we are, and I agree with that 1,000%. But what I'm going to stick to is I understood what Whoopi says, and I thought or think that people should have an open mind and see them from all angles, not just from the angle, because when you look at things based on your information level, your intake, your own
Yes.
educational level. So if you're not that well educated, you're not going to be able to see it from all angles. I think my duty as a podcaster, as a magazine owner, is to try to be as fair and open-minded as I possibly can, telling people stories, because you have to look at it from all ways. I think
You should.
but
Right.
I think the people that actually attacked Whoopi and made a big deal, they already had something against her. Because her last name is Goldberg doesn't mean a Goldberg that's a true Goldberg in the sense of being Jewish and white is going to accept her. She may
Right.
be an ally in our eyes, but because she's an ally in our eyes doesn't mean that they want her.
Right.
So those are the people that's going to come. And let me just say this for the record. And maybe I shouldn't, but I'm going to say it anyway. I noticed in the African American community, a lot of people don't like Jewish people. And you know how I feel? I never understood that, because I could tell you this. I respect the shit out of Jews. You know why? Because they went through worse than what black people did, and then they turned it around and they run shit. I got to respect that.
I agree with you on that. And here's the point. Here's the point that hurts me. And I really, when I say hurt, I don't want to sound like a soft man or nothing like that. But this is the part that really hurts me as a black man and as a black person. What you said is so true. The Jewish community went through something that, during the Holocaust, that was just
terrible,
as terrible or just as worse as slavery.
Without a doubt.
Okay. What hurts me is why in some, and I'm not gonna say all, but some Jewish people don't like black people, especially and make it hard in Hollywood when we've been through the same thing.
Exactly. But you know why I think that is? From their perception, you know why I think that is? Because I think this about my own people. I look at Jews and everything they've gone through and they've overcome. We went through some of the same things, but we ain't did shit. And I don't think
but here's the point I'm trying to make, though. That's a great point. Here was the difference. In Hollywood, if you know anything about early Hollywood in the 20s and the 30s, a lot of those actors were Jewish actors that had to change their name because Hollywood didn't want them in. So if you look at a lot of the Jewish actors back then, they had to change their name to get in. And that's the point that's what hurts me, I think, as a person who has been, I'm a foster kid. I was raised by white people and black people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really, you hear people say, oh, I don't see color. I could not. When I went 3 years out of my life, 2 white women in foster care were the ones feeding me and getting me up for school.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? As a kid.
Well, shit, I was raised by white people too, because them fucking guards in the jail, they raised my ass.
Right. But you know what I'm saying?
I get you though. I'm just playing. I'm playing.
I know you are, but I mean, so that's what bothers me, because I've never been like that. So it's like, it's just like yo, y'all been through the same thing. You know what I mean? But when you go through some of the situations in Hollywood with casting and things like that, you go, wow. But it is what it is. Sometimes people, it's like what we say in our neighborhood. Sometimes people forget where they came from.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
And it's just like when I moved to LA, one of the most craziest thing that bothered me about moving to LA was I'm from Philly, born in New York.
Right.
So Puerto Ricans and blacks, Spanish people, we got a one.
Without a doubt.
When I moved to LA and I was going down to certain areas, people was like, yo, you better watch yourself. You go down there. I'm like, why? The Mexicans don't be playing that. And I'm like,
yeah.
What you mean? Like, we cool.
Very
and
true.
I had an incident on stage one night that a brother went at me because I was trying to talk about how we should try to get together. This is early in my career. And he was like, man, you don't know what the fuck going on in the prison and blah, blah, blah. I didn't know nothing about Mexicans not liking black people.
Right.
So, again, when you look at it from that point, and then you look at what Whoopi said, sometimes it's a lack of communication and understanding of how other people see it. When you're looking at it like, It's like you just going through down a neighborhood, walking down the neighborhood with your money, counting your money, like, people like, yeah, my man, that this is, Brownsville or, the roughest part of New York, and you up here counting money, like, like, oh, I didn't know, I'm just walking
right.
because I'm thinking everybody cool.
Right. But blacks and Puerto Ricans or Latin people in New York are different, a whole different animal. It's a different culture, and we get along 1,000%.
But I didn't know that.
I know, but in LA, it's probably like that. But another thing about New York, what makes it different from LA, is that the majority of Latins in LA are Mexican. Mexicans are not a dominant factor in New York. It's more Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, something else. There are Mexicans there, but they don't dominate the way they do in LA.
Well, if they go to, and when they do come to New York, they got to, fall in line with what's happening out there.
Right, exactly. And I agree. And you know what? I'm going to just tell you a quick story. I was locked up. I mean, I always tell people that. But long story short, I was cool. I have children that are Spanish. I had a relative of one of my children was in the same jail I was in, and he was a Latin king. I'm Muslim, so there was a problem with the Latin kings and the Muslims. So because they knew I had Spanish kids, and they knew I had a Puerto Rican baby mama because she used to come see me sometimes, like the Puerto Ricans, everybody know who come to see who when you're on a visit or whatever. So long story short, one time we getting ready to beef. Like the jail is getting ready to go up. It's blacks against Puerto Ricans, and it's more so Latin kings against blacks. Because, one thing about them that I also respect is when they get together for whatever, they stick together. It don't matter if it's 100 of them and 1,000 of somebody. They get together and they stick together. We don't do that. I don't know why it is like that, but I respect them for that. So long story short, I knew all of the Latin kings. So I'm walking in the yard one day, and this in particular family member on my baby mother's side tells me, yo, listen, Shabazz, it's going to go up, but this how it's going to go. I talk to my people. Yo, if it go up, I got to hit you. But we going to hit you last.
Right.
What, motherfucker? You going to hit me last? Like, what kind of condolence? How do I find solace in just being the last nigga to be hit? You know what I mean? Because I'm cool with them. But the point that I'm trying to make is, even though that might sound weird as hell to somebody who's never been in jail, it was kind of complimentary that I'm going to save your black ass to stab you last because we respect you enough to stab you last. And that's because I have kids and you're a part of the family. But it still didn't take away the fact that when it was time, they're going to hit you either way. I just wasn't going to get hit first. You understand?
Right.
It went up and I ain't get hit. You know what I mean? It wasn't because I was a tough guy. I'm not trying to pretend that I'm a tough guy. No. It never got that far. There were people who got hit and there were assaults in the jail and all that. I just wasn't one of those people. And I went to the yard just like everybody else. Because I remember one time they were so strong that they told the black Muslims that if you walk in the yard with a kufi, they was going to tear your ass up. And it's the same like with the states and the populations. Depending on which prison you're in, depends on how many Muslims are in that prison. You can be in upstate New York and Attica, and it might be 1,000 Muslims. But then you can be in Sing Sing, and there might be 300. And then that 300 is opposed to 1,000 Latin kings or nietas or whatever it is. So they kind of run the jail. When something happens, they have enough manpower to tell people who can wear what and whatever. But unfortunately, some of my brothers, Muslims believe in peace. Don't get it wrong. They will tear your ass up. But overall, they like to talk it out or whatever. But I was always a Muslim that said, nigga, you're not going to tell me what I can and can't wear. You're just going to have to tear me up because I'm wearing my kufi. So I use that as a parallel to say the same thing about understanding where you're at with what you just said as far as in being in L.A. And the Mexicans there, they run it. And they don't really know how to... And I don't know if they really run it. I'm just going off of what you said. They don't really know how to mix and mingle with the black folks. So they
don't really, in some aspects, they don't want to. Even though where I live in a Latin building, never had no problems.
Right.
Like they give me respect. I know the kids. I watch the kids grow up.
Right.
They show me love. Blah blah blah. But I mean, certain areas. If you go to certain areas, and I live in the Valley in California.
Okay.
In Sherman Oaks area. But but if you go in the Van Nuys area, but then if you go to LA, there's some spots. But it's it's like that, I guess, everywhere. You know what I mean?
Right. So it's basically, which is great for this conversation. It goes according to your education level in the streets. So you know
Right.
how to move, what to say, and what not to say. But you still have to be open and definitely open-minded to even give yourself a chance to understand, as opposed to carrying animosity or hate towards Latin people, because you could take that same mentality from LA to New York and think that Mexicans don't like black people, and you'll end up in a Puerto Rican neighborhood not knowing that they're not Mexican, they're Puerto Rican, and it's all
Right.
love. Or you can take that attitude and take it to New York and say these Puerto Ricans is Mexicans and I hate them. So it's based on where you've been and how you move. You understand?
Right.
So to
Mm-hmm.
take that back, as far as the Whoopi situation is concerned, I get it and I understand, and I do see both sides. I just think people have to be more open-minded. And because of that, going back to Joe Rogan, I think he knows that, because what they did, they put a collage of all of his interviews. Spotify has officially went and removed every interview that he had dealing with race. They've done that in
Okay.
a 24-hour period to take it off of Spotify. He's not been accused of this once, twice, 3, 4, 5. It's almost a dozen times with the ER.
Okay.
So I feel like even if you grow
And
up,
again, I don't know enough. I'll be honest with you, even though I know Joe Rogan was out here, I know for years before he went to Texas, I really have no, I have no relationship, or even I never listened to his podcast, none of that. So, well, I listened to a couple of times. I have recently when he was talking about the COVID and some other stuff, but so I won't be a hypocrite. But I haven't listened to anything when he talked about race or anything like that. So I don't have a lot of, as I would say, information on it. But if people feel, again, and what we said earlier is, if certain people feel the way, then they feel the way. Now the question is, can people look at it from both sides, or is it even deserving of being looked at on both sides?
right?
So that's how it is. If she wishes to take it off, I mean, you got to ask yourself too. Is it going to hurt you by taking it off for Spotify? Because Spotify could be like, okay, you take it off, you take it off.
And I
You know what
don't
I mean?
I don't I think she said, well, she did a recording on Instagram and she said she spoke to Spotify and Spotify told her that the best selling stuff that they had on there was black people's music. So part of her point was, not only was she offended by Joe Rogan's choice of words, she was offended that he's getting $120 million. But as an artist in music, they get 0.3% of a penny for their
Wow.
plays. So she's saying you're taking all of your money and investing it in a man who thinks the way he does, yet the artists that are actually making you the money, you're paying them 0.3 of a penny per play.
Right.
That's her beef. How do you feel about that?
And I think she has every right. I think that I think right now the music game, and I'm not in the music game obviously, but with streaming and everything, a lot of the people, they really played themselves. And I think a lot of times, in some cases, black people played themselves. We decided, our young artists back in the day decided, that the money was worth more than keeping it original and keeping it culturally original, to the point where once you go for the money, then you get what they give you.
Right. Do you see that
So
do you see that on your side of entertainment, like in the comic
yes,
world? Do you see that?
I see it in the comedy world. What I see in the comedy world more is a lot of, like, to me, your strongest comics aren't the ones that are being promoted. Let's put it that way.
Name
You know what
them.
I mean?
Let's break it down. Tell me, because I'm
I would
far
just
into
say,
that.
to be honest with you, I'll just speak for myself.
Okay.
I have always been a strong comedian.
Okay.
But if you're not at a clique, or if you're not signed with a high agency, then it's going to be tougher. You don't get the road gigs. You don't get the tours. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it just depends. But again, like anything in life, my man, is that you got to find your niche. You got to find your lane, and then you got to be able to switch lanes when need be, which means you got to keep recreating yourself.
Right.
So I never use excuses. And I'm going to tell you why I don't make excuses for my career, nor what happens in Hollywood. As anybody will ever tell you, you have never, ever heard me say F Hollywood or the hell with Hollywood. And I've had issues where I've had disagreements, but you'll never hear me downgrade it. And the reason is because, like I always tell people, Hollywood did not come to the Ohio State University my last year in graduate school and ask me, hey, Do you want to give up your master's degree and move out to LA and struggle for 20 or 30 years? You know what I mean?
Right.
Working up and down, getting your highs and getting your lows.
Right.
That was a decision that I made. And when you make that decision, you got to stick to your guns and you can't blame anybody.
Right.
Now you can be disappointed. You can, especially if someone fucks you over or they do you dirty, but you can't blame someone if you had a chance to make 150,000 a year and you decided, you know what, I enjoy people more. I'm gonna go for this. It's just you have to go where your heart is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, does it make it right? I'm not saying it makes it right, but what I am saying is, just like I say in sports, when I hear these athletes say, well, it's slave plantation. Sir, the difference between you and a slave, you can change your profession.
Right.
You know what I'm
Slave
saying?
can't.
So,
I get it. So how do you
yeah.
feel about the controversies in, like let's use for example Monique? She's a comedian and she went through a Netflix controversy. How did you feel about
Right.
that?
I was very happy for Monique because what happened with Monique um, exposed a lot of things. A lot of things have gotten exposed over these last 5 or 6 years
Right.
with the streaming services.
Right.
And from what Dave exposed to Monique exposed that, they were paying, because I never knew that they was paying all of these other white comics 10, 15, $20 million a pop.
Right.
Dave is different. Dave came from the Dave Chappelle show. He is always been a guy as an African American comic. He also came up under the white comedians. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or with the white comics. So Dave, with his cachet, yeah, okay, I see you paying him $60 million for 3 episodes, 3 pilots. But at the same time, Monique has a cachet. She has a following. She's been one of our most powerful Black comics out there for a long period of time, and as a female. So to say here, I'm gonna give you 500,000 when she knows, hell, 500,000, I'm gonna get 5, 10, 15 million views because people are gonna watch it just from being Black. You know what I mean?
Right.
So she understood her worth. You know what I'm saying? And then
do you think her, let me ask you this: do you think it was her worth as a Black person, or do you think it's her worth as being Monique? Because there's a difference.
I just think, you know what? The problem with it is that's what we keep doing. We make the separation. And it shouldn't be the separation. It should be as a comedian. She had a TV show. She won an Oscar.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean, like, it's not, we're not talking about somebody that just came off the boat. You know what I mean?
Right.
We're talking about somebody that really has, a track record.
Right. But do you believe Hollywood? Do you believe Hollywood makes that separation? Do you think that they look at it? The reason why I ask that is because Dave Chappelle's argument and fight came off a little stronger than Monique's, and he won. I don't think Monique did.
Dave's argument came off stronger because of the fact that after a while you can't keep attacking people because they don't agree with a particular lifestyle. Dave didn't tell people. See, what we do is we use this word, well, is promoting this, and then saying that we want to send people out there to hurt people. Dave wasn't saying that, nor was Monique.
Right.
Dave was saying that, hey, I feel that a woman is somebody that can have a baby, pretty much. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that was his feelings. Society is trying to make that differently. Dave spoke up, but if you speak to a lot of comedians, we could care less about the gender situation as much as we cared about, look, don't try to shut us down because we have a different point of view.
Right.
That's what, you know what I mean? And then what Dave said in one of his things was, I have no problem with the trans community or the gay community, whatever. It's corporate America. Because corporate America is the one that keeps buckling and going, okay, we got 10 people out here that didn't like it, so we're not going to give you any money unless you take this person off. And Dave, the problem with Dave was he was a man that did not care about the money.
Right.
They couldn't shut him down.
Right.
Because Dave is strong enough to be like, all right, well, you know what? I still can make $10 to $20 million just renting a venue and doing it myself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what got exposed. And like I told people, and the thing about it, I did a show one night, and I said, it was the craziest show, bro.
Okay.
I can't make it up. It was a Black woman with a white guy.
Okay.
It was a Black man with a white man, and they were gay.
Okay.
And then it was a straight couple. Like it was one of my small shows. It was at the Ha Ha Comedy Club.
Okay.
And the straight couple was a black man and the girl was from Iran.
Wow.
And I laughed first. I made a joke about. I said, "Damn." I said, "This is a nice little multi mix." I said, "And look, nobody likes their own race," and everybody started laughing
Right.
because everybody was dating someone different.
Right.
But I said something that even the gay guys agreed with, and that's why I was so happy when they came up to me at the end of the show, like, "Man, you were great," blah blah blah. And what I did, I asked everybody in the room. I said, "Were you asked to be born?" I asked each and every person, "Did you ask to be born?"
Right.
And everybody said no. And I said, "So who gives anyone the right to cancel someone's life for making a comment or a statement that they made a mistake on? Who is that?
Right.
Who gives you the power to just say, we don't want to hear from this person anymore, even though they may not be any malice in their heart?"
Right.
And at the end of the show, those guys came to me and it was like, because I made a joke up and said, when I found out they were, because I saw them with the guy, and like I said, they were two men together. And I said, and I joked, I said, well, "Okay, so now are you guys dating?" And the brother said, "Yeah, he's my boyfriend." I was like, "Oh shit," you know what I mean? And everybody started laughing. I said, "Okay, who's pimping who?" You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm making jokes. And then I said it. And I said, and I made a joke up. I said, "So I guess Netflix sent y'all here to spy on us." And
Right.
then everybody broke out laughing, like, and I'm making jokes like, but the point at the end, when I said that, they came to me and they said, "Man, that is real, man. And everybody should have the right. If you're not, especially if I'm not telling someone to go out there and say, look, anybody that's wearing Nike sneakers, I want you to go out there and rob them and beat them up." You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're not preaching it that way, people are going to have different opinions.
Let me
They're
hit you.
just going to,
Let me hit you with my
you know,
mentality. And I'm not an educated person. I didn't go to college. I didn't do any of that. I went to the streets. But if you would have asked me that question, I would definitely answer. And the answer would be, you're right. No, I wasn't asked to be born. But because of cancel culture and because of people's understandings, because of people's hidden agendas, I would tell you that if I was a part of the cancel culture, no, I did not ask to be born, but canceling me will make me born again. Dig that.
wow. The cancel culture will make you be born again.
I would be born just like a Christian. I'm born again because when you take when you take a shahada as a Muslim, you're born again. When you go to Christian, you get baptized, you're born again. What it does is it
Right,
gives you a chance to reinvent yourself and come back stronger than what you were. And that's
right,
what I don't understand where people are scared of the cancel culture, because if you're a man, I'm going to stand on what I am and I'm going to come back however I have
right,
to. And people
right.
don't have that type of mentality. And unfortunately for America, I may not be considered someone who's you're going to listen to. I'm a street nigga. But even with me being where I'm from, I still make myself think. There is a way to think for everything, and you have to have an open mind in order to do that. You can ask a person a question like that and you can totally throw them off because it's obvious. Of course you're not asked to be born. But if you
Right,
do something to me, I'm going to be born again. And it doesn't
right.
necessarily I'm going to be born again Christian. I might be born again as the devil and kick your ass for doing whatever you're doing to me, but I am going to be born again. I shall and will resurface. People
Right.
don't think like that. You
Right. Well,
understand?
you know why, bro? Because what happens, especially when you're on a large platform, you see what I'm saying? You're coming from a whole different mentality base. I understand. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when
Because
you're
we
on a
have to.
large,
But you know
right,
what you're saying, I get it, a bigger base, but I'm coming from a place where I have no choice but to be that way. We're at the
right,
end of the day, we're black, man. At the end of the day, we got to come harder. We got to come better. We got to come smarter. That's just the way it is. And I just don't understand how come we don't do that. This is why I applaud Jews for doing what they do. I'm never going to sit back and say, fuck the Jews and they're this and they're that. Man, I do not subscribe to that mentality. And the reason why is because if I've seen that you've been assassinated, burned, all kinds of crazy stuff, and you still managed to come back, I gotta salute that. I'm not about if
well,
anything.
I think
If
let me tell you
anything,
why
let
I
me just
agree.
finish this last part.
Yeah, good, brother. I'm
If
sorry.
anything, I am going to ask you, how did you do that?
Right.
Teach me, so I can be just as strong. I'm not about to
Well,
sit up here and say fuck the Jews. No.
yeah, I never say that. And let me tell you something. I learned this lesson years ago. First of all, my mother, my late mom, she did housework. She cleaned Jewish people's homes in Philadelphia. She was a domestic worker.
Right.
Housework to the day she died.
Right.
And some of her clients, she used to come home and talk about how they were knuckleheads or she didn't like them, but she never hated them. And she said some of them treated her as nice as they ever could be.
Right.
But this is something that I admire about the Jewish community, the Latin community, and what I can't understand about our community.
Right.
But I understand it.
Right.
Because I've had it happen to me. We hold grudges. We don't trust each other. We don't want to work together.
Speak on it.
We talk a great game.
Without a doubt.
We'll get on all of these platforms of social media and our major stars and go, man, black on black must be good. But when it comes down to it,
right,
we don't want to do it. And a lot of that's because sometimes we're not professional.
Right.
We're not, it's just like tonight. When you told me 5 o'clock,
right,
I hit you up and said, look, I'm not going to be ready at that time. I'm not going to be ready at this time. So you said, look, here's a time when you could be ready.
Right.
We didn't wait until 1 minute before I was supposed to go on and go, yo, I ain't going to be able to do it. Right. So our professionalism and our decorum is terrible.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you something that a brother showed me one time, and I never forgot this. I was on the corner of 3rd, 6th, and La Brea.
Okay.
Now, in the La Brea area in Los Angeles, it is a large population, Jewish population.
Right.
And this brother, he was an old head. This was back in 1994 or 5. I'll never forget it. He said, look around. I swear, I cannot make this up, brother. He said, look around. He said, you see this? He said, this is all owned by Jewish people.
Right.
He said, not every Jewish person likes the other Jewish person.
Right.
He said, but they will not take this money out the community.
Right.
That's what we'll do.
Right.
We'll get mad and spend it everywhere.
Right.
We don't have nail shops. We have the Korean, many Koreans that don't like blacks, but we'll go get our nails. You'll see it on YouTube where there was one spot down, I forgot, it was Louisiana or Alabama, where they had a problem with the Asian nailers who was calling them racist, whatever. But guess what? The girls left for a week and then they all came right back. Like they didn't care.
Right.
But that's the difference. But with us, let me say something to someone wrong. Don't mess with Dannon no more.
Right.
Don't, in our own community.
Right.
And that's it.
I agree.
It's not, so I admire anyone. I just don't want to say the Jewish community. I admire any nationality when they can deal and work together, even if they don't agree or like each other.
Right.
And we don't get it. When you called me, when we spoke, hey, Dan, hey, man, okay, man, we had our conversation.
Right.
And it was like, okay, bro, I'm a solid dude, man. I love to do you. Okay, man, it was called, but we got it to work.
Right.
I didn't blow a whole bunch of hot air. You didn't blow hot air.
Right.
We blow a lot of hot air. And a lot of times, bro, I've been in situations in Hollywood where you hear someone say, well, man, if you do this, then you can do this. And I'm talking about from black people. And then you do these things and you come to them and they're like, oh, man, but this ain't the right time. You know what I mean? It's like, but you say it. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we're just as much as for our demise, if not more, on how we treat each other.
What it is it's selective prejudice, and it's selective.
Yeah.
It's selective. It's I don't know the word that I want to use for it, but it's just a selective process that we go through. And the reason why I say that is because we can have 2 black men and they're both charged with the same type of crime, but because one is liked by more than the other, they're going to crucify the one that is not liked as much, and they both are guilty and charged with the same crime, but they're going to let the other brother off. Social media is like that. You know what I mean? Like, we're selective in our justice process. We choose who we want to make guilty and who we don't. It's what we accept.
We do it within our own community, black.
Without a doubt.
Instagram,
that's what I'm talking about. We do that.
It's like, yo, you know what I mean? Like for instance, we got killings all over this country, unfortunately. Black on black crime.
Yeah.
But if you kill someone, you're a snitch.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I'm supposed to just take this L with my family or my friend or whatever?
Yeah. But I think that's part of the reason for that is because I think that black people, depending on their mentality, believe that you should handle the problem yourself. I don't know if it's really just based on snitching because there's different definitions of snitching. If you're a law-abiding citizen and you pay your taxes and you go to work every day and you tell the police something, you're not a snitch. If you're
No,
up,
that's what I'm saying.
if you're
But
up,
just think about a lot of the situations of things that were going on
right,
in our society. Now, if you're part of, if you get part of a game
right,
and that's the game, and you get involved,
right,
then no, you got to take that L.
exactly, right,
You know what I mean?
exactly,
So you got to take that L because you knew what was coming in on that point. But
exactly,
but again, I just believe what has happened to us as a country and as a people and as a race and as humanity is, like you said earlier, we're going to pick and choose who we want to make it. We're going to pick and choose who we want to destroy.
exactly.
Instead of saying, now the greatest thing about, I hate social media.
Right.
I tell you, I kid you not. But the great thing about social media is that it does allow us to start either, if not picking our stars, but helping our stars. Because
Right.
before then, if you wasn't with a big agency or agent or management company, then you ain't going, you're not going to get anything.
Right.
But now you can have a guy that's in the middle of Texas or somewhere else or Philadelphia or New York, and he can show that he has some talent. Now, a lot of these dudes to me don't have talent.
Right.
Being on an Instagram, skit for a minute and a half or showing it, that's not showing that you can hold a crowd as a stand-up or you really can be an actor. Right. But if the going rate is going to get you that money, it is what it is.
Right.
I'm never going to hate on it.
Right. Speaking of hate, man, in the comedy world, why don't you name your top 5?
My top 5 comedians
here
in life
now.
Or like
they could be dead or they could be alive. Top 5.
My top 2 are George Carlin and Richard Pryor.
Okay. Why? Why George Carlin and Richard Pryor? Why?
Because my style is more of a George Carlin style.
Okay, break down what that is.
Well, a guy that spoke about reality. He spoke about, he was very, as we say in Hollywood, current.
Okay.
But he made you laugh, but at the end, he also made you think.
Right.
And Richard was the same.
Right.
But Richard could even make up a story, and you could see, even though the story may not be something you could believe, you could like, you know what? But I see what it is.
Right.
When he did this joke about working for the Italians, and he wanted to go in there and demand his money, and they was laughing when he came in there with a gun, like, hey, make Richard some food. They like the food fried. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but it was true. We eat fried food, but it was just how Richard said it.
Right.
But I'm like a George Carlin star. I like Chris Rock.
That's 3.
You know what I mean?
Your top 5. Your top 5.
Yeah.
That's 3.
So I would say George Carlin, Richard Pryor, 1A, 1B. You could put them with, like that.
Okay.
Chris Rock.
Okay.
The guy that really made me, believe it or not, that really made me want to be a comedian when I was a kid, but I never really wanted to be a comedian. But the first one that really made me laugh, and just being silly, Steve Martin.
Okay.
And then if I was talking about maybe a current comic today that I really like, it would be between DL and Earthquake.
Wow.
I know them personally.
You didn't mention David Chappelle.
Dave is top. And I actually forgot about Dave. So if I was going to knock somebody off, you know what I mean? It would be, either DL or Earthquake. But I'm talking about what made me, as a, you said my top 5, so I'm not going to change it. Those would be my top 5, and Dave would be in it.
All right, funny or not funny? I'm gonna name a couple of comments, and you tell me.
Now you gotta say this to me. One thing about me, I don't like to do that because comedy is subjective. No, hear me out. Comedy is subjective.
Okay.
So, and me being a comic, I feel like I can, and I'll share a story with you. I feel like I'm just as strong as anybody on stage, and I'll share this story with you.
Okay.
I was at the Laugh Factory. It was Chocolate Sundays years ago, and Chris Spencer was the host. And I was supposed to go on first. And if you know anything about the Chocolate Sundays, it's one of the hottest rooms in LA on Sunday nights.
Okay.
And Mike Epps came in. And Chris said, well, yo, I'm going to put Mike on first, and then I'm going to bring you on. Because Mike just, there's, this, it's like street code. When the top comic come in, if he wants to go on stage right now, he's allowed to go on.
Okay. Because
he's going to keep he's the draw,
right.
Even though he wasn't booked. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they put Mike on first.
Okay.
Crowds packed, and Mike did 20, 25 minutes, ripped it.
Okay.
And then Chris Spencer brought me on, and I ripped it. I literally destroyed it. And on everything I ever loved, Chris Spencer came to me. He said, good set. And then he said, I didn't think you was going to be able to follow him.
So you think he set you up?
No, he didn't set me up. That's rules. If I'm Greg on stage...
No, I mean set you up to see, because he didn't think you could follow him. Did you think that he set you up to see if you could really follow him or not?
No. I don't think that. It's not calculated because in the rule of comedy, if you're about to go on stage, you're the third person Greg on stage.
Right.
You Greg on.
Right.
And Kevin Hart comes in the house.
Right.
You're going to get bumped.
Right. Got it.
If a name comes in, it's just part of the game. You get bumped.
Right. How do you feel about that?
Call that huh?
How do you feel about that?
They earned it.
Okay. You don't look at him like this dude ain't funny. I'm funnier than him.
No, you never. Again, it's subjective, and what is the draw of the audience?
Okay.
And on top of that, you've earned that. If you're doing TV and films and people know you, you've earned that right to come on, and you've been in the game for a minute, and you've been still rocking. You've earned that right to come on and bump whoever's next.
So you're not going to answer if I name a name and say whether they're funny to you or not.
I would not do that, and It's not a fear thing. It's just that comedy is so subjective. You just said to me, so Dave Chappelle's not your top 5. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about Dave.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
But I know Dave. I love Dave. So I'm like, oh wait a minute. Okay, shit. Wait, hold up. I got to bump somebody.
Right.
So if I'm gonna bump somebody, it's gonna be DL or Earthquake.
Right.
Even though those are my, without me forgetting about Dave, Earthquake and DL are my tops.
Right. I get it, and I do believe it is subjective. It kind of depends on where you come from, their style, if they're relatable to you or not. So I agree with that. But there are some comedians that I just don't think is funny at all.
And a lot of people feel that way. There's a lot of people that feel that way. And again, what I try to do is when I grab that mic, that is my 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever they're giving me, to show everybody that I can bring it.
Right. So where can we see you at, man? Are you got any shows coming up? Any tours? Or anything like that?
I just did the Comedy Store last week. The big thing with me right now is I'm getting into a lot of writing and I'm sorry, I was just looking at something. I'm getting into writing and trying to produce. I'm directing a pilot in 3 weeks. I just wrote my own TV pilot. I'm just updating my documentaries, and I'm still doing a comedy. I'm just not on tour with anyone. Okay. And that's the only thing I would, if I had any issues in Hollywood, it's just that you got it. You have to be in cliques almost. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm not, but I can't complain. What I got to do is make sure I just handle my business when I get on stage, and that's what I try to do.
Let me ask you this then. Let me go controversial. When you say have to be in cliques, does Kevin Hart have a clique?
Got a great clique.
Steve Harvey, he has a clique.
Let me. Well, oh no, I don't know. No, Steve. No, Steve used to. He was down with J. Anthony Brown and some other people, but Jay still works with him on his show. See what I mean by clique? I mean, like, you got your core group. You got the top dog got his group. Jamie Foxx has his boys.
Right.
Johnny Mac, who's a writer. Speedy, comedian, writer. So they got their crews. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
I have more of an issue when it is, there's a talent. And I'll just speak for myself. I know I got a talent, but I can't get in because it's not with any of the other people, but like when an agency has everybody. You know what I mean? So you're sitting here and you're trying, so you got to almost find, it's like it's like I always tell people, it's like, you're in New York now, right? Or you're in Chicago?
Chicago.
Okay, so what is your supermarket? Name your main, is it Kroger?
No.
Which one is it? Your major supermarket out there?
Oh man, well, where I'm at right now, the biggest, there's so many, but there's Jules, there's Whole Foods, there's Dominic's,
Okay,
there's
so
Pete Produce, there's a lot.
let's go Jules. Let's go Jules.
Okay. I
Okay.
hate Jules for the record though, and the reason why I
Okay,
hate Jules, let me just tell you this, I'm gonna push it in. The reason why I hate Jules is because Jules has a certain attitude with their employees, and it's like when you say click, I would definitely say Jules employees are clicked up, and that mentality is they're all at the bowling alley on Friday. They're all drinking beers. They're all middle aged, and they have racist tendencies, and you can feel it. You see it when you're in their stores. It's just a feeling. It's the closest one to where I live at, and I always try to pass it. I'll go to Myers before I go to them, or I'll go to Whole Foods because you just don't feel that. But Jules to me just carries a mainstream, hidden racist type of a thing.
Okay, well, which one do you like? Just pick the one you want.
Oh, I would go to Whole Foods.
Okay, so let's say Whole Food, right? Right?
Right. Okay.
So Whole Food. And Whole Food is usually packed, correct?
It is. Always.
Okay. But even though people go through maybe one or two doors to go into the Whole Food, right?
Right.
Everybody took a different path to get there.
Right.
So that's how I look at the entertainment.
Right.
Whether you're funny, whether you're not, there's a goal, there's a prize that you feel for yourself, and not everybody's going to take the same path to get there.
You're right. And let me expound on what I said about Jules. It's also depending on the location of the Jules, because where I live at, it's like that. But then if you go towards the city or in the city, there are Jules and you don't feel that because you just don't feel that.
Yeah, but I'm just using the name.
I get it.
I
get it. No, I get it.
Right. As a location of saying, so it's just like with me right now with my comedy, bro. You can go online, you can Google me, your people can, hopefully people follow me at Dannon Green 66. That's my Instagram, Dannon Green 66.
Okay.
But if you go to YouTube and you watch my comment, I'm strong, good, been in a lot of interviews, a lot of stuff. It's just about getting out there and staying in the game. Right. And so now I have someone that's interested in me, and I'm about to direct their pilot, and I'm wrote a TV pilot. So again, how I get my dollar bill and how you get your dollar bill, everybody might get it differently as long as you get the dollar bill you're looking for.
Right. I agree. 1,000%.
Yeah.
I agree 1,000%. But listen, man, I don't want to hold you up any longer. I appreciate you for being on my show, man. I thank you. Maybe we could collaborate and do something one day.
Man, I would love to, man. Like I said, I write screenplays and I go out and try to get money for my projects, and I have no problem, man, with people trying to, bring, it's like I tell people, when I meet with people in Hollywood, and I'm pitching something, I don't come with an ideal. I never come with an ideal. I don't say I got a great film ideal, because all they're going to ask me is, what's the treatment? What's the synopsis? What's the budget? Where's the script? They're going to ask you for these things.
Right.
So what I try to do is I come to the table with all of that, so that the most anyone can say is yes or no.
Right.
So when I deal with people, I try to come to the table with something. Hopefully the other person comes to the table with something, and then we can collaborate and try to get something done. And that's just how I work.
Right. And that's the way it's supposed to be. So I definitely respect you for that, man. And, I don't know how big my table is, but I'm definitely standing on something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what it is. Hey, Danny, man, thank you. I appreciate you, man.
Man, I appreciate it. I'm happy that we got a chance to talk. And
without
I'm definitely, I definitely look forward to you, bro, to, us collaborating on some things, man. Hopefully that'll happen.
We're going to make that happen. Hey, man, thank you. I appreciate you again, and have a good night, Black man.
My man, thank you. I appreciate you guys very much.
All right.